Hello and welcome to your practice. Today's posture is a wide-legged standing forward fold. But before we make our way there, we're going to do a whole warm-up sequence with different variations that you can do from a wide-legged position. And I love this posture for today and everything that leads up to it because you can really get a full flow in just using this wide-legged position and changing your foot positioning and your hip orientation. So to begin, take a wide stance on your mat like this. You'll probably want to face the long edge of your mat so that you've got padding the whole time. And as you can see, I'm going to begin with my hips in external rotation, or this turnout position of the legs. And the feet are facing out at like a 45-degree angle. You don't need to be like a total ballerina here and face totally out. Just adjust so that your knees stack right over your ankles when you come down into an imaginary stool position. So you can check that now, taking a little bit of a seat and just taking a look at your initial alignment. If you look down and it looks like your knees are pitching in, then there are two things that you can do to protect your knees and better your alignment from here. One of those things would be to shorten up your stance a little bit, pulling your feet closer together. That will help. Another one of the reasons the knees might be tipping in is because your feet are a little bit too turned out relative to your hip mobility. So instead of turning your toes out so much to the side, face the toes slightly more forward, and that will help. So you're going to find the position that's just right for your body. We all have different joint shapes and socket sizes, and all of that affects what you appear like in a posture. So no judgment, it's not one size fits all, but you do want to find an alignment where your knees are pretty much stacked over your ankles when you come down. Once you've found that, come up to a standing position and we'll begin our flow. We'll start with just some simple arm sweeps, reaching up, and then we'll bring the hands right down through the center as we come down into that imaginary stool. Breathe in to rise up, and breathe out to sit down. And keep moving right along with your own breath rhythm. As always, it doesn't have to match my pace. Sometimes I like to move a little bit faster if I need a little more energy, need to wake up a bit. And I love to move really slow sometimes, not only to calm down, soothe the nervous system, but also to add a little bit of a strength and endurance challenge and to do a little breathing practice, slowing down the breath and building the lung capacity. So you pick your pace and breathe in as you reach up and breathe out as you come down. And we'll do one more. We'll end down in that wide-legged squat position and just hold there for a breath. And then we'll reach back up. We'll keep the leg movement the same, but now we'll add a little bit of a hip hinge and just sweep the arms right in front, like you're gathering up a big bundle of something. And you can even alternate which hand is positioned in front each time so that you get a little brain exercise as well. Now go as low as you want with this, but make sure that the depth in your center of gravity is coming from bending your knees more deeply rather than rounding your back to get closer to the floor. So we'll do a few more of these. Hopefully you start to feel your legs, your inner thighs, and your hips warming up. 2 more. And then we'll reach the arms out to the sides. Palms facing the ceiling. We'll roll the shoulders back and down and take a breath. And then we'll reach all the way up and bring the hands down to the center. All right, so we're going to come back into our bent knee position here, and then we'll add a little twist, a little rotation of the upper spine. So start to lower down, and then bring your hands to rest on your thighs with your fingers pointing downward. Take a breath, and then drop one shoulder in towards the center, just giving a little twist. Breathe back in, come to center, and then switch, facing the other direction. Breathe in to come to center, and breathe out to twist. And you might feel that arm straightening a little bit, the arm that you're turning away from. Just make sure you keep it comfortable, not forcing your spine to rotate more than feels just right. It's a nice inner thigh stretch and a really nice twist for the upper and mid back. We'll just do a few more. Just one more in each direction. And when you're feeling even and balanced, start to hinge up and then stand up, reaching both arms up overhead, and then returning the hands to the center of your chest. Take a breath. And then we're going to move on from this externally rotated position and just come to a neutral position. So for this, your feet will face straight ahead. Your feet will be parallel to each other. Your toes will face the long edge of your mat. Now, depending on your hip shape and size, maybe you still have a little bit of turnout, and that's okay. But for the most part, we're kind of moving towards parallel for this next one. And we're just going to start to shift from side to side. So start by picking one leg and bending that knee so that your knee stacks right over your foot or your ankle. Then shift back to center and switch to the other side. And continue on with these. Rising up in the center and then coming to that side lunge. We can add some arms to this, bringing the arms out to the sides like you would in Warrior Two, or even reaching up in the center and then coming into that side lunge with arms by the shoulders. So take a few more, moving from side to side. And then when you're feeling even and balanced, come back to an upright spine. And just check in your alignment. We've got neutral pelvis here, rather than a pelvis that's spilling forward. We've got a little engagement in the belly. The shoulders are back and down, and the neck is long. And this prepares us to start to add a deeper hip hinge and start to come into a forward fold. So as far as the feet, we'll build this from the ground up. You'll keep your feet parallel, just like they were for those side lunges, Or you might even feel a little bit of internal rotation of the hips. So you're in the slightest way a little pigeon-toed. And this helps to sort of open up your external rotators and help you in the stretch. For this first variation of your wide-legged forward fold, I would suggest a block or even 2 blocks out in front, or you can even place your hand on a low chair or a stack of books. And we'll bring the hands to the hips and stand up tall, and then start to hinge forward until your shoulders are right at the same height as your hips. So we're not rounding the back, and we're not going below the hip line here. Imagine your torso as a tabletop, and you want to be able to balance a tray right on your back. This is where the blocks come in handy, because if we didn't have blocks, you'd probably be in a forward fold by now. So just place your hands on the blocks and feel that stability. We've got 4 points of contact, really stable. And this is just a nice place to stay and take a few breaths as your back lengthens. You can imagine someone pulling your tail backwards and then pressing the crown of your head forwards. Feel your weight shift towards the balls of your feet and then back towards your heels. And notice when you do that, how the weight gets a little heavier in your hands. And then as you shift back, it gets lighter. You can really affect and change the sensation just by shifting. Then come to a place where you've got quite a bit of weight in your heels, and see if you can take one arm out to the side. And then bring it down. And take the other arm out to the side. And bring it down. And you can do that again. Or you can try taking both arms up into an airplane position. And then bring them down. Let's do it again, either one arm or both. And then down. You might really feel the backs of your legs firing up. We'll do 2 more. A lot of support through the back muscles and the belly. And we'll do 1 more. And then come back to your blocks. Take a breath. And then we're going to get ready to rotate through the spine from here. And it's totally fine if you just have 1 block. Just kind of position it in the middle. Otherwise, 1 hand on each block. We're going to start to add a twist. So, pick a side and twist towards that side, trying to keep your hips level. And then slowly come back down and twist the other direction. And come back to center and switch. Come back down and switch. And keep going with these at your own breath pace. Like I said, you can slow it down or you can speed it up. You can even feel free to twist and pause for a whole cycle of breath. If you're feeling like you're getting some good sensation, sometimes it's nice to pause the flow and just stay with that a little longer. So take your time to finish up, making sure you feel even and balanced on both sides. And then when you're ready, bring your hands on up to your hips, and then all the way up to standing. So by now we've created some length in the back of the body, and we haven't even gone all the way into our forward bend yet. So we're really prepared. We're ready to go a little deeper. We're going to start by reaching up just to encourage a lengthening through the whole torso and spine. And then we'll circle sweep the arms all the way out and start to tip forward. If your hands naturally come right to the floor, that's fine, but if you'd like to pause at the block, that's great too. And for our first variation here, we'll just start by bending the elbows. Maybe you feel like you're ready to go a little deeper, so you move that block between your feet and bend your elbows. Or you don't need the block at all, and the hands can rest on the floor right between your feet. Or another thing that I like to do is use the block to establish a trajectory for your spine and for the crown of your head. You place the block right where your top of your head is heading, and then you can set your head on the block. Now, some of you might find that you're quite flexible through the backs of your legs, and even without the block, the top of your head is able to settle right onto the floor. But if you find that you're doing that and not feeling a stretch, or you're doing that and you're not able to even keep your spine long, so maybe your chin is kind of lifted like this, that's a sign that your legs are a bit too wide. And so if that's you, heel toe in, come back up to reset, and try again. To find your ideal spacing from foot to foot, imagine that flexibility was no issue at all, and you could just totally fold your body in half with full mobility and just dangle your torso right between the legs. If you were able to do that, which most of us can't just, completely easefully do that, but if you're able to do that, you want to have your legs just that right distance apart, that your head would very gently touch the ground, and you'd have that perfect amount of space for your upper body. So you don't want to be so narrow here that your head would not be anywhere close to the ground. But more often I see people going too wide, and they think that, it'll help me get closer to the floor, but really it just ends up putting extra strain on the hips and the knees. And then for those very flexible people, they don't have the space for their torso. So find that right fit for you by imagining your torso would fold right in half and you'd set your head on the floor. So if you've been in your forward bend the whole time, go ahead and slowly hinge up, keeping your spine long. And I'll take a breath with you. And I'm going to turn to the side here as we get ready for round 2. I think we're going to do 3 rounds of this. So second variation, we'll reach up just like we did. We'll circle sweep down, bringing your hands to the floor or the block. Continue to journey forward by bending your elbows. And any stopping point is okay. If this feels like a great place for you to stay, just stay right here. But if you feel like you want to go a little deeper, you can try flipping your palms and walking the hands through the legs like this. Take a few breaths here. Feel your weight shifting into the balls of your feet rather than putting a lot of weight in your heels. That involves a little bit of trust that those leg muscles will hold you. You're not going to fall. And then when you've had enough, bring your hands back to the space under your shoulders. Come up halfway to pause. And then we'll bring our hands back to the hips and use all that core strength to hinge back up. All right, take a moment just to resettle, regroup, and then we will visit one more time. And you can either do one of those variations that we just did, or you can add a chest expansion. So this of course adds a little challenge because you won't have your hands on the floor for support in any way. So we go from having 4 points of contact down to 2. So it's totally optional. Stick with one of those other options for our third round, or clasp your hands behind your back. And maybe your hands are apart like this, or maybe the palms of your hands come together like that. Either way is fine. Take a breath to prepare, and then slowly hinge down. Just breathing. Maybe you keep your arms in this position the whole time, or you decide partway to bring your hands down to the ground. And take about 3 more cycles of breath. And then when you're ready, release your hands to the ground if you'd like, so you've got some support. Or for an extra challenge, keep them clasped as you hinge all the way up to standing. Make your way back however feels best. And then release. Notice all that opening that you've experienced across the chest, and also notice everything that's gone on in your legs. Come back to mountain, just feeling a little bit of regrouping, regrounding. And that concludes our wide-legged forward fold practice. That's one of my favorite postures, and everything that you can do leading up to it is really, really fun. I know a lot of the people that are doing this challenge teach yoga, and all those things we just did are really nice sort of in-between postures if you're creating what I call an around the world flow, where you're maybe doing some Warrior Two postures, and then you want to go to do your Warrior Two facing the back of your mat. So you can easily just turn towards the side and take that forward bend, or take some of those wide-legged flowing squats, and then you're all set up to face the other way. So it's a good sequencing tool, and like we just did, you can really create a 15 or 20 minute practice using the long edge of your mat instead of the front of your mat, and taking a wider stance. So enjoy, and if you feel all warmed up and ready to keep flowing, enjoy a little longer practice now. Otherwise, I will see you for more posture breakdown next time. Thank you for practicing with me. Have a beautiful day or a restful evening.